This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. You know, it's one thing when talking heads, dumb shits like me, are on the internet to opine about Donald Trump and his lack of patriotism, his lack of fealty to the Constitution, his disloyalty to the very nation that has provided him an atmosphere to become as wealthy as he is, which isn't as wealthy as he says, but he's a wealthy man. It's one thing when people like me do it. It's one thing when there's a few veterans of the United States military like me out there doing this job. But it's another thing when a secretary in the Biden administration, the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, did the same thing on Jen Psaki's program this weekend. He was reacting to the unhinged attacks coming from Donald Trump to General Mark Milley, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs, where Donald Trump is making excuses for justifying the potential execution for treason against the country on Truth Social. I've covered it. You can go back and watch those videos. He was asked about this, and he's talking specifically about that. The clip starts, but that's what he's talking about, is Donald Trump's attacks on General Milley. And in a far more civilized way than I ever do, because that is who Pete Buttigieg is, he lays out the case against Donald Trump, the coward, the weakling, the draft dodger, all of that. I don't think he maybe uses those words. That's my job. But watch this. We need more of this from our leaders, from cabinet secretaries, from the president of the United States, calling it like it is relative to who Donald Trump is at his core. He is not a hero. He is not a patriot. He is not someone with love or sacrifice in his heart for his country. That is not who he is. And they need to call it as it is. Deal with reality on reality's terms. Watch Pete Buttigieg.
It's alarming, not surprising, but given you've served and you're a longtime public servant, what is your reaction to that?
The level of disrespect for the American military, not to mention for the general, is both shocking and not shocking. I mean, look, this is part of a lifelong pattern with the former president that I would argue was first displayed when he faked a disability in order to avoid having to go to Vietnam and allowed, I assume, some working class person to go in his place, and has continued ever since. Made a name for himself by basically saying that he did not respect John McCain because he was a war hero. Look, a lot of this obviously is to get attention, and you hesitate to reward that. On the other hand, we do in fact still have some boundaries that matter in this country. And one of them is that our regard for the military and our respect for the military is nonpartisan. It's non-political, and it's universal. And that is especially important because that's part of how the military does their job. I knew every time I put on that uniform, every time I went to work, every time I got into a vehicle, every time I went outside the wire, that I was with men and women who were serving and supporting each other and responsive to a chain of command that was not about politics, that did not break down because of our political differences. This undermines that. It threatens that. And it threatens it at a time when we need those institutions that are still at least somewhat outside of the chaos that the last administration sowed and that some extreme House Republicans are sowing as we speak. We need what the military has to offer by way of nonpartisan stability more than ever. And I would say General Milley's been a class act in how he's dealt with it.
Hard to put any better than that, right? That Donald Trump faked his disability, his little bone spurs, which I have, by the way. I've showed, if I can drum up a picture, I'll show the x-rays from the VA hospital in Long Beach, California, of my bone spurs. And it gives you an idea of why they're called bone spurs, like cowboy spurs, because they're crazy and they hurt. But Donald Trump, come on. Bone spurs, draft dodger, coward, faketriot, literally hugging and kissing and molesting the United States flag. John McCain's not a hero. I like my heroes that weren't captured. Talking about on Howard Stern time after time that him not getting a venereal disease or what do they call it now? A sexually transmitted infection, SDI or STI, that was his Vietnam because he was just banging so many women. That his Vietnam, his personal Vietnam, because he dodged the draft and didn't go to the actual conflict, was him dodging sexually transmitted diseases. He's a walking sexually transmitted disease, a coward, a hypocrite, a liar, a failure. You're not going to hear Pete Buttigieg talk like that. But again, that's why I exist. I'm here to take up the slack for the politicians and our political leaders who maybe can't say because of norms. Anyway, what do you think? We'll cut this one short. What do you think? I'd love to know. We can mix it up in the comments. We can disagree agreeably or as agreeably as we can. I understand it's still a YouTube comment section. You can also call and leave me a voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me, as always, daily@dollemore.com. I'd love to hear from you. If you appreciate what I do, if I'm your flavor of political commentator, please consider supporting my work, helping produce what we do here. Every little bit goes a long way. A lot of people, what's $2 going to do? If I'm able to marshal the size of my audience and just a fraction of the people who are subscribed or a fraction of the people who watch my videos were to support, we could fundamentally change this operation and grow it in ways that I don't even know about right now. You can click the join button below for $2 a month. You can become a channel member. You can hit the super thanks button, or you can go over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. I'd love to see you there. Follow me on social media. I'm at Dollemore on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Facebook, all of them at Dollemore. That's where you can find me. I'd love to see you there. And I will see you next time. Until then, be genuine. Take care of one another.